Cheech here with Fly Fish Food, and we have skill builder number 37. We're dealing with this dirty dog. It's calf body hair, and everybody hates it. I want to teach you how to love it.
Dude, that's a big brown, bro.
Calf body hair. We're talking about calf body hair for parachutes. Here I've got a cool little caddisfly. You can see that's a really nicely placed parachute. The cool thing about calf body hair is it's so visible and it helps your flies float a little bit. Now, this is not calf tail. So calf tail is a different material. You can do parachutes and split wings out of calf tail, and it's a huge pain in the butt to line it up. I prefer calf body hair. The only struggle with calf body hair is finding a good patch. So I pulled out 2 patches, and that's going to be the first skill. We're just talking about calf body hair and what to look for. It's kind of tough. When I was podcasting with old Tom Rosenbauer, he asked me what the be all end all hard to get fly tying material is, and I told him good calf body hair. Since then, I've found a few good patches, and I think that we can start getting some better quality ones, hopefully. But I'm just going to show you what to look for and what not to look for, okay? So this is a good example of what I would say is a good patch of calf body hair. Just getting ready to do these tutorials and filling my own box, I've used, I don't know, about 1/3 of it. But what I like about this is it's nice and full. So if you squish it this way, there's a lot of squish to it. The leather doesn't really matter, but this one is, it is tanned, so that's good. But I just want hair that is nice and full and that is relatively the same length, okay? So this was a good little calf. I like this one quite a bit just because of how full it is. Above all, it needs to be nice and full. So anyway, that's a good patch. This one, maybe not so much. The main thing here is look how thin that is. It's like paper thin. It doesn't have a lot of squish to it when I squish all throughout the patch. Up here it gets a little better. But what that means is there's not a lot of hair on this. So in order to tie one fly, I might have to take off a patch maybe 3 times or 4 times as big as this one. Not a big deal, but it's just going to use it up more. And then as you can see, a lot of these fibers are different lengths. So we have a whole bunch of little ones, we have some longer ones. So ideally you want similar length, you want it floofy like this, and then again the leather doesn't matter so much. This one's not tanned, this one is, but the tanned one is the better patch. So anyway, if you're looking for calf body hair and you can thumb through it and grab it, look for something like this. All right, we are going to show you how to tie a parachute with calf body hair. Maybe the classiest way to tie a parachute on a fly. Not only is it durable, it floats well, but the visibility is the big thing. Keep in mind, the smaller you tie them, the harder they will be. This is going to be on a size 12 for demonstration purposes. Yeah, you guys can see the black thread. You'll see black thread over the white calf body hair just fine. So here's how we're going to do it. When I tie a parachute with calf body hair, it's the first thing I tie on. If I'm using anything else, I wait until that step. So I'm not going to wrap this part of the hook on purpose because that's where my tail's going to go, and I like to leave it bare. And so for a parachute, you're going to want it to pop out of your dry fly about right there. You can go a little further back or forward. It's not really going to matter a ton, but I'm going to show you about right there. All right, so let's get into this hair. What I'm going to do is kind of come in here and separate a clump. Getting the right amount of hair is kind of the hardest part of this. But you can use your scissors to part the hair if you want, or you can just grab it or whatever. But anyway, here's a pretty healthy chunk. This is probably more than I need, but we'll cut it off anyway. And there we have it. Yeah, that's way more than I need. So what I'm going to do is just pull out some of the shorter fibers. There are some in this one. just by holding on to the very tips. That way, if there's anything shorter than where I'm grabbing it, that'll come out, and it's usually this. So where it felt too big at first, let's see, it's still kind of chunky. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to pull in some of these real curly ones up at the top, the real long fellas. We could almost tie it in just like that. Okay, but that's a good amount. Now, you need a hair stacker that is going to be big enough to let your fibers kind of spread out in a line. Put those in there, and these usually require more stackage than others. So there we have it. They're not very long, so if you get real aggressive, sometimes it will pop out the top of it. I don't know. I know a guy that did it like yesterday at his desk over there. Brig. Wasn't me though. And we're going to pull these out facing the direction we want. We're going to have our parachute post facing this direction. So that's how I will pull that out of there. Now look how perfect that is. That is, man, this hair stacker really did the trick for me. So I'm going to grab this. Now, when you bunch this up, some of those tips are going to lose their alignment. That's fine. I'm just going to grab them all in one quick grab like that. So now I have them in one hand, and you're going to have to get them into the other hand. Now see what happened there is they kind of angled down. If that happens, and you really want it straight across the top, do it and don't talk to the people in the camera while you pinch it down. So I'm going to pinch it down harder this time, and now when I grab it with my other hand, we're relatively stacked, okay? We did have a few renegades, aka haters, come out. You can spend all day picking those out if you want, but anyway, there is our clump of hair that we're going to tie in for this parachute, okay? Now the parachute should roughly be as long as the body length, so our parachute's going to be about like that. See how I'm using the tip of my thumb to measure where I need to tie that in. Convenient, because if you've watched our pinch wrap technique, I can now place that hair here, come up between my fingers doing a pinch wrap, go down the other side, but don't put a lot of pressure on it yet, okay? Do not let go with your offhand at all. Even if Brigham hands you one of the new delicious guava energy drinks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping back now. And before I let go of that, I'm going to sneak in some really fine scissors, like these fancy copters, and cut it at an angle. So see how aggressive that angle is? That's going to taper down just right. So if I unwind my thread, I should be able to do touching turns, and it will just wrap down really nicely. Got some haters that didn't want to play the game. And little thread wanger hanging off. But look, hey, that's what it's called. Back to the task at hand. We're going to wrap back forward, and I'm just going to keep this body nice and smooth. This is the big challenge of tying these parachute flies, is keeping the body slim, okay? I am no expert whatsoever in keeping bodies slim unless it's in the fly tying arena. Then I am an expert. Otherwise, I got nothing for you. I like eating tacos and ribs and stuff. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab all this. We're going to pull it straight up. I am all fingers, but I'm going to try to show you. Oh, you little freaking dirty rat. You get the freak out of here. You're not welcome. Adios. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that parachute back, and I'm going to, that other one got in there. Man, they're just adamant that they're going to be part of this video, these little, gosh dang fibers. And because I made a big deal about one of them, I better get the rest of them out of there-ish. All right, we will have a few fibers escape. All right, so I'm going to build a little bit of a dam up right here, and that just helps me with propping that up. So look how nice that looks so far. Now this is the final step. This one's kind of a difficult step to describe because I'm going to have to wrap a post around the base of this wing. It's not always the easiest. As you're wrapping this parachute post, you can't just pull on your bobbin to increase the length of your thread. What you're going to have to do is you're going to be putting such little pressure on this parachute post that you're going to have to manually do it with your fingers, okay? Up and down. So get used to that, because if you try to pull more thread out on this parachute post, I'll just show you what happens, okay? I'll take one for the team, even though it's looking real nice. We have two guys over here that don't want to play. And we're making a video for the people, so we got to make it pretty. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start out by, I grip the parachute on top to maybe do my first 2 turns. Okay, so there we have it. And I'm going to very gently wrap my thread up the post, okay? Now, if I'm running out of thread here and I need more, but if I were to pull to add more thread, that's what happens, okay? So here's what you need to do. You need to, we'll do that again. Bonus skill builder, you get to see me do this twice. So if you can see in the overhand camera, I am now just using my fingers to give myself more thread. And once I go up, I've got to go back down, okay? So that is going to play really nicely. So what I'm doing with my fingers now, I'm making the post more vertical. And once I have that done, I will just add a little bit of glue to it. That's not always going to want to stay like that. But if you add a little bit of glue, whether it be super glue, head cement, or whatever, that is going to turn into a really, really cool parachute post. We are going to now do the queen mother of all calf body hair activities, and that is tie a split wing, like for a royal wolf or a royal humpy or a royal rippin' rooster. No. What? Brigham, I'm trying to throw your fly names out there. They're kind of stupid, and so I want people to remember them. Anyway. So yeah, those types of flies. Anyway, we got a real good patch of calf body hair. We've only wrapped down here. I like to leave the back of the hook shank a little empty so they can tie the tail on a little better. And when I tie on the split wing, it's going to be about right there. It seems like it's a little far back. We're coming out about right there. But that's how these big attractors are. They're built for a lot of hackle. And so we're going to leave it a little bit of room in the front for a lot of hackle. So the big trick with this is getting the right amount of hair. And it's just kind of I don't know, I still don't have it down. But I'm just going to get out a chunk that I think is good. So there we go. I think some of that's going to come out when I clean it. You can either do it with your fingers or with a comb. See that? It's not like deer hair where it's got a bunch of under fluff that's like really fine. It's just shorter fibers. So see that? Get rid of those bad boys. And then it's just kind of a feel test. I think I need just a little tiny bit more. So I'm just going to get a tiny, tiny bit more. When you add more, you're always going to cut off more than you think. Let's see if I can change that. All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to take that and pull out maybe a few of those long curly ones at the head, and let's get those aligned up in our stacker. On this one, they are shorter fibers, so kind of go gentle with it, but do a whole bunch of them. Now, this stuff doesn't stack quite as nicely as deer hair because they can kind of curl up a little bit, but that ought to do just fine. Now we're going to pull this out facing the direction this way that our hook is facing, because that's how we're going to lay that down. So when we prop them up, it's nice and easy. All right, so I'm going to pull this out of the stacker now. And as you can see, those lined up really, really nicely. So grab them all in one grab with your finger. Kind of easier said than done. And when you transfer it to your other finger, nice, that worked great that time. On the last video, I had to restack. Sometimes when you transfer from hand to hand, it can you can lose the evenness, but that's plenty good. So for these wings, are going to be roughly the length of the body of the fly. So I'm going to measure from about right here to there. Let's see, about like that. And you can see my thumb is marking where I need to tie that in, just the edge of my thumb. So what I can do now is I can just move that, place it where my thread wants to tie it in, and I just come up between my fingers. This is the pinch wrap technique that we covered on another skill builder. And I'm going to pull it straight down on the other side, maybe. See what happened there? My fingers are a little rough and the thread wanted to slide a little bit forward. So I'm going to come up and then pull straight down. You know what? It's doing it again. Hold on. Hold, hold, hold. So slightly angled up, we have our hair. We're going to gently take this, switch hands. Oh man, this is almost good. Look, we're in. We're ready to tie in again. All right, so I'm going to take a measurement here, throw it down here, straight down on the other side, and boom. We're tying it in. That only took 4 tries, people, and I've been practicing this for a long time. Okay, so don't flip out if it doesn't turn out right. Just cut it off and try it again. All right. So one thing that you notice is I did not let go with my offhand. Okay. And the reason for that is I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to come in here at an angle and cut that off. Okay. You should also notice that this is more hair than I had with the parachute because I need to make 2 wings and not 1. So it is a little bit bulkier, but it should still be pretty slim. All right. So before I come up here and mess with the splitting of the wings, I'm just going to tie this down and just wrap this back. This is really one of the nice things about calf body hair is because when you crank down on deer hair for a humpy wing or something, the hair flares all over the place. So even getting the body thin like this is kind of tough. Anyway, so here we have our body. I'm going to then pull those wings straight up and back, just exposing a little bump of white in front of my fingers. I'm going to shorten my thread and just build up a little bit of a ramp here. All right, so it should look like this at this point, okay? Now, that's enough to make 2 wings, absolutely. You might want to use, red thread if you're tying a royal wolf or something like that. Sometimes you can use white thread for this to really hide it as best you can. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this wing and we're going to turn it into like a compare-done style thinger. But what we're really doing is we need to split it. So if you can see my fingers here, I'm pulling maybe equal sections to the side. It's going to want to all just go back where it came from. So we're just going to gauge what is the center point, because one of your wings is going to be thicker than the other. It's just a fact of life, and you're going to be mad about it, but this is the best. This is the only chance you have of making sure your wings are exactly the same, okay? So here we have it. I think I've got them well enough. Sorry for the people in the face-on camera, but this is kind of how we have to do this. So if you watch the overhead camera, I'll show you how I do it. I'm going to start with the far wing and hold it away from me, and I'm going to come over the top of that and do like 2 turns, and then pull the wing closest to me and do a few more turns. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to create a figure 8. All right, perfect. Had a few of those fibers break off on me, but that's not a big deal at all. So here we have our split wing, okay? And the next part is this. I'm going to have to come in here, grab one wing, and make a post up this wing. See how that slipped off of there because I used too much pressure? If you need to give yourself more thread, you got to do it with your fingers, because if you just pull on it, it will unravel all your hard work, okay? And if you need to, you can grab onto that wing and give it a little bit of a snug wrap, Okay, so I did that when I started coming down. So now you can see nice and separated and bundled wing. So I'm going to do it on the other side. See if I can get it. You have to kind of do touching turns as you wrap up this wing, or else your thread will slip all over the place. You wrap back down, and now we have 2 posted wings. The next question is, how do we get these to sit upright? So we're just going to fold those and bend them up. Okay, just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread and do figure 8. See how as I pull this, it's going to pull that wing to where I want it. And it only does that because I took my thread and I wrapped up the post. See that? I'm up the post, and I can now pull that wing over this way. Now I'm just going to cross over, wrap up this post, and pull that wing over how I want. So at the end of the day, I can do a figure 8 wrap between the posts to set that angle, okay? We're going to now take a little bit of super glue or head cement or whatever, and we just set those wings so that they never, ever, ever come undone. But anyway, that is how I like to do split wings with calf body hair.